There is a quiet divergence that unfolds in the financial lives of many people, and what makes it so fascinating is that it almost never appears dramatic while it is happening. No alarms go off. No one suddenly notices that two individuals who once seemed to be walking the same road are slowly heading toward very different destinations. For years, sometimes decades, their lives appear almost identical from the outside. They graduate from similar schools, begin their careers around the same time, earn comparable salaries, and navigate adulthood through the same economic environment as everyone else around them. They work hard, pursue promotions, pay their bills, and gradually build lives that reflect their effort and ambition. If you were observing them during the early years of their professional lives, you would likely assume their financial futures would unfold in very similar ways. But beneath the surface, something much more subtle is happening. The divergence does not come from intelligence, talent, or even income. In many cases, the people involved have nearly identical earning potential. Instead, the difference begins in something far less visible: the way each person understands the relationship between money and time. This small difference in perspective quietly shapes thousands of financial decisions over the course of a lifetime. None of those decisions appear dramatic in isolation, yet when repeated consistently over decades, they gradually create outcomes that seem almost unbelievable when viewed from the outside. Imagine two individuals beginning their careers at the same company. Let's call them Andrew and Daniel. Both are competent, disciplined, and motivated. They show up early, complete their work well, and build reputations that allow them to grow professionally. In the early years, their financial lives look nearly indistinguishable. They rent similar apartments, drive comparable cars, and occasionally celebrate milestones with vacations or special purchases. Their salaries increase gradually as their careers develop, and their lifestyles evolve accordingly. Friends and co-workers see two young professionals who appear equally successful and equally responsible. Yet the real story is not written in their salaries. It is written in what happens after their paychecks arrive. Andrew views income primarily as the fuel that supports his present lifestyle. His thinking is not reckless or irresponsible. It simply reflects the pattern most people naturally follow. When his income increases, it feels logical that his life should improve alongside it. A slightly larger apartment makes daily life more comfortable. Better furniture makes the home feel more complete. Occasional luxury purchases feel like deserved rewards after long weeks of work. Each decision feels rational in the moment. None of them appear dangerous. Yet over time, a pattern quietly forms. As Andrew's income grows, so does the cost of maintaining his life. Gradually, the financial structure of his life becomes tightly linked to his continued ability to generate income through work. Daniel's behavior initially looks very similar. He also allows his life to improve over time. But Daniel approaches income with a slightly different mental framework. Instead of viewing every dollar as something meant to be consumed, he views part of his income as raw material for building something that exists outside the immediate cycle of earning and spending. Every month, often automatically, he directs a portion of what he earns toward investments. In the early years, the amounts are not impressive. Sometimes they feel so small that the effort seems almost symbolic. After several years of consistency, the total may still appear modest compared to his annual salary. And this is precisely the moment where most people abandon the process, because the early phase of wealth building is psychologically uncomfortable. Human beings are wired to respond to visible progress. When effort produces immediate results, motivation remains strong. But when progress is slow and distant, our instincts struggle to stay engaged. Saving money for something that may benefit you 30 years from now produces almost no emotional reward in the present moment. Spending money today produces instant feedback. The pleasure is immediate and tangible. Yet the modern financial system rewards behavior that runs directly against these instincts. It rewards patience, delayed gratification, and the willingness to accept that the first phase of building wealth often feels unimpressive. As the years pass, Daniel continues investing consistently, Economic cycles rise and fall. Markets experience both optimism and fear. Headlines constantly predict either extraordinary growth or imminent collapse. But Daniel's behavior does not rely on predicting short-term movements. Instead, it relies on allowing time to perform its quiet work in the background. Because when money is invested and allowed to remain invested, the returns it produces begin generating additional returns. This phenomenon, compound growth, creates a process that gradually becomes self-reinforcing. In the early years, its effect is barely visible, but eventually, the accumulated capital begins contributing a meaningful share of the total growth. At that point, something interesting begins to happen. Instead of relying entirely on new money being added, the existing capital begins doing part of the work. If you enjoy exploring deeper ideas about money, long-term thinking, and the psychology behind financial decisions, take a moment to subscribe to the channel, because understanding how wealth truly develops over decades can change the way you think about money forever. Now, imagine that 20 years have passed. Andrew has built a successful professional life. His income is far higher than when he first began working. His home is comfortable, his lifestyle reflects years of professional progress, and by most traditional standards, he appears financially successful. Yet, the structure of his financial life remains closely tied to one central factor: his ability to continue working and earning income. As long as his career remains stable, the system functions smoothly. But if that income were interrupted for a long period of time, the entire system would feel pressure almost immediately. Daniel's life also appears successful from the outside. He too has advanced professionally and improved his lifestyle over time. But alongside his career, another system has been quietly expanding in the background. His investment portfolio, once small enough to seem insignificant, has grown steadily through years of disciplined contributions and compounded returns. What began as a small habit has gradually become a powerful financial structure. And after 2 decades, something subtle begins to change. The capital itself starts generating a noticeable share of the growth. This distinction reveals a concept that many people misunderstand. Income and wealth are not the same thing. Income is a flow. It moves continuously through your life, arriving and leaving month after month. Wealth, on the other hand, is a stock. It accumulates over time and remains even when new income temporarily stops. A person can earn an impressive salary and still possess little wealth if their expenses rise alongside their income. Meanwhile, someone with a more modest salary can accumulate substantial wealth simply by converting a portion of that income into assets that grow independently of their labor. The difference between Andrew and Daniel never came from a dramatic moment. There was no single decision that changed everything. Instead, the divergence emerged from a series of small choices repeated consistently over decades. Andrew organized his financial life around the present. Daniel organized his financial life around the future. Over a single year, this difference barely matters. Over 5 years, it remains small, but over 30 years, it becomes transformative. Because wealth rarely appears through sudden breakthroughs, it grows quietly, it grows slowly, and most of the time, it grows while no one is paying attention. By the time the results become visible, the most difficult part of the process has already passed. The years of patience, discipline, and consistency that made the growth possible in the first place. In the end, the difference between people who become wealthy and those who simply work for income throughout their entire lives often comes down to a single shift in perspective. Some people spend their lives exchanging time for money. Others slowly learn how to convert a portion of that money into assets capable of producing value long after the original work has been completed. Over decades, that difference changes everything. And it all begins with a simple question. Not, how much can I spend today, but what could this money become if I allowed it enough time to grow? Because once you truly begin thinking in that way, you realize that wealth is not a single event. It is a long process, a patient process, a process that rewards consistency far more than brilliance. And if you want to keep learning about how money, investing, and human behavior shape financial outcomes over time, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because the ideas that compound financially are often the same ideas that compound intellectually over a lifetime.